Hey Psychthoughts fans, Doug coming to you from the big purple couch here at Tech to talk to you today about a couple of things about psychology. A couple of things that maybe make you know that life's not going to keep you down, that you can go on and become very great. So today, I want to make sure that if you're watching this, make sure that you like and subscribe and hit that notification button, because we'll be doing more of these interesting little tidbits, facts, different people will be doing these little videos of psychology knowledge that you really wanted to know, or maybe really didn't want to know. You be the judge. So today, let's talk history. Okay, now I know what you're thinking. Why am I subscribed to this channel? I don't like history. Let's stop this channel now. Let me tell you, history sometimes can be a wonderful thing. No matter who you are, most people who don't like history, they go, I don't want to study the history of things. It's confusing. Not unless you're a history major and you're like, Doug, that's the greatest thing in the world. But history, a lot of times when we take time out to know the history of our profession, it can give us a different insight, and it can also give us a little more inspiration about who we are and what our major and where it came from. So no matter what you major in, from engineering to chemistry, from zoology to psychology, you should know where your field of study comes from. So today, I want to ask you, if you're a psychology student, if I asked you straight out, who is the father of experimental psychology, you would instantly go, I know this one. Would that be Wilhelm Wundt, Doug? And I would say that is correct. Yes, Wilhelm Wundt is pretty much known as the father of experimental psychology. And in some textbooks, he's actually known as the father of modern psychology. But here's a little tidbit that you probably didn't know. There are other people that were also up for the title or the sash of father of psychology too. And that is one of the people we want to talk about today. I want to talk about the strange and fascinating life of Gustar Fechner, the man who should have been the father of psychology. Fechner was a unique little character. He was born in 1801 and he died in 1887. He went to med school. He majored in many different things while he was going, but when he was in med school, one of the most unique things is he wrote satire essays in the paper about science and medicine. He wrote under the name of Dr. Mrs. That should have been a sign that this guy's going to be interesting. He loved science, and he also loved metaphysics. He's also known as the father of metaphysics. He liked the idea about studying about sensation and consciousness and all the different things. He was highly intellectual, spoke many languages. In fact, he studied physics, mathematics, and chemistry, and also translated some mathematics books into French. In 1830, I'm going to move him on up. He became very much interested in sensation and investigating visual after images. Now this is the part of the story where Gustav kind of went off the rails. As you know, in psychology, after images is like you get those little illusions, you stare at it intently, and then you look at a white wall and you see the image there. This intrigued him. He was very much into sensations and about how we interpret our visual fields, and so he decided to do his own studies. The only thing is that he really had a hard time just staring at objects and getting that illusion. So he did the only logical thing. He had to think about this. He stared directly at the sun. Yes, that's right. Let that sink in. He stared at the sun. Many times he would just stand and go, there's the sun, let's look at it. Yes, it was not a good idea. In fact, he went on to damage his eyes. He damaged his eyes so much that he couldn't open them. His brain was like, we're not staring at the sun. We're closing. This is it. No. But he damaged his eyesight. In 1833, he went into a depression. I don't know why. He's getting a lot of vitamin D staring at the sun. And his eyes irritated him so bad. He was poor of health. He basically moved into a dark room at his house where he lived for many years. Mainly because he was very much hated getting out in the light. It hurt his eyes. I mean, he about blinded himself here. That is a man that sticks to his research. During this time, his mother would come to him and read through him through an open door. Many people suggest that he also started picking up depression and not doing very well. Many feel that his illness was kind of more of a neurotic kind of thing, why he spent all this time. So all this time he's spending in a dark room, he told a friend that he had a dream that told him to eat raw spiced ham marinated with Rhine wine and lemon juice. That just, and if you think that doesn't sound good, it's not. It's not good. So he started eating that, and guess what? One of those weird moments. In 6 months, he started feeling better. Yeah, he started getting better eating that crap. But that didn't last long, and then he got feeling bad again and got worse. And during that time, he was worried that he was starting to lose his sanity. He wrote in one of his journals, quote, "I had the distinct feeling that my mind was unably lost unless I could stem the flood of disturbing thoughts." Now, he never did kind of go into more detail about those disturbing thoughts, but the man stared at the sun for long periods of time. So he would give himself just simple things to do. He would not try to focus on hard things like math, physics, all that stuff. He'd just, count beans and just do random odd chores to relax his brain. Over the course of the time when he did this, he didn't strain his eyes. He started feeling a little bit better. But during this time, he had another dream. Dreams are pretty important to this guy, don't you think? And this time he dreamed of the number 77. He took that as a sign that he would get better in 77 days. And at the end of the 77 days, he died. No, he did. He got better. He actually got better. In the 77 days, he's like better. He came out of the darkness. He started feeling better. He felt that this was a sign from God for him to solve all the world's mysteries. He dreamed up 77. In 77 days, he's better. I'm going to solve all the mysteries of the world. And during this whole time that he was in his darkness and the times that he came out, he had a lot of different theories about perception and a lot of things about consciousness and our world of sensation and perception. One of the things that he did develop was that he developed the idea of the pleasure principle during this time. And that would go on to influence another person that we'll probably talk about later on in this channel, Sigmund Freud. Yeah, Gustav did everything. He basically, a man that took most of his life eating raw ham with wine juice and everything else and lived in darkness and stared at the sun, he lived to be 86 years old. So he did pretty good for himself. So I know what you're thinking. That's a unique little story there, Doug, and I'm glad that I wasted 5-10 minutes of my life listening to it. What should I take from that? Well, there's a couple of weird things that you can take from this along the line. Many people always tell you that, well, you're kind of different. You don't set in. You're kind of odd. Well, that doesn't mean that you can't go on to be great. Most of the time from history, we look at most of our great people, they had some, what would be the word, uniqueness? Or as my grandmother would say, they had a lot of that, bless their heart. Yes. And so Fechner went on to be a huge impact in psychology, even though, if you saw him standing in the quad staring at the sun, you'd be like, let's not go near him. There you go. Now, for the one last fact that really isn't a fact, if you're curious, you should Google an image of Fechner. And also Google an image of Riff Raff from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. They look a lot alike, which I think would make it cool because I would have took him as a class because, well, I saw the Rocky Horror a lot of times, and that's for another chapter and another video. So thanks for listening. Once again, we'll be back with more strange psychology facts, weird experiments, stuff that we go around. Sometimes we come from the big purple couch, and sometimes we come from the field. Until next time, I hope you stay safe. And yeah, really, don't stare at the sun. It's not a good thing. Okay, just don't. Trust me. Okay. Until next time. See ya.